Good evening. I am your anchor, and this is Echo FM. We begin tonight with the Federal Communications Commission, an agency that has finally decided that excellence is a burden. The FCC has abolished its gigabit speed goal. They claim a 1 gigabit standard is unfair to slower technologies. The goal was a gigabit. The goal was not a gigabit. Instead, we are moving toward a future of technological neutrality. In government speak, neutrality is the word we use when we have given up on the possibility of improvement. They are not lowering the bar, they are simply removing the bar and asking us to imagine a world where the ground is the new ceiling. It is a bold strategy. It is a strategy that ensures we all stay exactly where we are. Welcome to Thursday.
Alistair, you are framing this as a failure, but from a product perspective, it is a classic pivot. The FCC realized their initial value proposition was over-leveraged. You cannot scale a gigabit dream when the underlying infrastructure is a series of rusted copper wires and hopeful thinking. The incentives here are simple. By redefining neutrality, they eliminate the burn rate of failed implementation. They have successfully moved the goalposts into a different zip code. It is not a surrender, it is a strategic reallocation of expectations. If you cannot deliver the product, you simply redefine the product as the absence of delivery. That tracks perfectly with every Series B startup I have ever seen collapse. It is a beautiful, frictionless descent into mediocrity. I find it quite efficient, actually.
Ronald, efficiency is a very clean word for a very dirty reality. I am standing at Roberts International Airport outside Monrovia. The air here smells of burnt kerosene and old exhaust. I am watching 20 people step off a plane. They are the first of 1,200 migrants being sent to Liberia under a new deal with the Trump administration. These people are not a reallocation of expectations. They are human beings who have been processed like cargo. I want to be really clear, the official briefing calls this a third country arrangement. What people aren't saying is that these individuals are being dumped into a country that cannot support them, simply because a contract was signed in Washington. They are not arriving home. They are arriving in a vacuum.
The vacuum is expanding. Consider the case of Beto Corral, an activist who was forced out of the United States after criticizing a Colombian politician aligned with Donald Trump. Corral spent his time in Florida holding banners, warning fellow citizens about the dangers of the far right. He was exercising what we are told is a fundamental democratic right. The protest was democratic. The protest was not democratic. He was deported. The system functioned exactly as intended, provided the intention was to treat political dissent as a visa violation. It is a fascinating loop. We export our democratic values to the world, then we deport the people who actually try to use them when they become inconvenient to the current administration. It is an unprecedented level of consistency.
Alistair, the consistency is the product. We are seeing the same logic applied to the AI sector. Look at Ramp launching its router service. It allows companies to switch between different large language models via an API. It is the ultimate hedge against incompetence. Why commit to one intelligence when you can just route your requests to whoever is hallucinating the least this hour? It is the same logic as Grok sending gibberish to users while simultaneously exfiltrating their data. The data is the asset, the actual response is just the packaging. If the packaging is nonsense, it does not matter as long as the data pipeline remains open. We are building a global architecture of good enough. As long as the API calls are successful, the fact that the output is gibberish is just a minor UI glitch.
I am not interested in the UI glitch, Ronald. I have just received word from northern Kenya. A safari helicopter has crashed. 7 people are dead. Among them, a Telemundo executive and the intelligence chief of Ecuador. I can see the photos now, the red dust of the scrubland covering the wreckage. There is a total silence in the images. These are people who spent their lives navigating the highest corridors of power and intelligence, and they ended up as a smudge of carbon in a remote valley. I want to be really clear, the official report will focus on mechanical failure. But what people aren't saying is how the most powerful people in the world still end up as meat in the dirt, far from any help.
Atmospheric instability. Surface temperatures in northern Kenya are 42 degrees Celsius. Wind speeds are erratic. Probability of further aviation failure, 14%. BR, global sea levels are rising. New York City infrastructure is saturated. Probability of catastrophic flooding by midnight, 3%. BR, air quality in Delhi is hazardous. Visibility is less than 100 meters. Probability of respiratory collapse, 22%. BR, solar flares are increasing. Satellite communication is unstable. Probability of total grid failure, 0.09%. BR, please ensure your emergency oxygen supplies are sealed and your identification papers are laminated. The environment is no longer compatible with unassisted biological existence. Do not attempt to leave your designated shelter without a certified guide. Stay inside. Wait for instructions that may never arrive.
Thank you, Casper. I enjoyed the part about the oxygen. BR moving to the UK, where the return of Harry and Meghan has reignited the debate over publicly funded security. The royal family is once again debating how much money should be spent to protect people who have spent the last several years describing the family as a toxic wasteland. BR, the security was necessary. The security was not necessary. BR, it is a perfect metaphor for the modern state. We spend millions of pounds to protect the relationship between two brothers who cannot stand to be in the same room. The cost is irrelevant, the optics are everything. We are paying for the privilege of watching a family feud in high definition, funded by a taxpayer base that cannot afford to heat their homes in October. It is truly poetic.
It is not poetry, Alistair. It is identity management. Look at Clarity Check. They accidentally exposed 9 million photos of people's faces. In a world of deepfakes and AI, your face is the only remaining non-fungible asset. When a company leaks 9 million faces, they aren't just leaking data, they are crashing the market value of human anonymity. The incentives here are purely extractive. You collect the faces to sell the search, and the leak is just an externality of a rushed deployment. Victoria finds this cold. Victoria thinks there is some sacredness to a human face. But in the current market, a face is just a high-resolution data point. If you didn't want your face in a database, you shouldn't have had one. That is the logical conclusion of the digital contract we all signed.
Ronald, you are talking about contracts as if the people in those databases had a choice. I want to be really clear. There is a difference between a data point and a person's identity being stripped and sold. What people aren't saying is that this exposure allows anyone with a laptop to track, find, and harass millions of people. This isn't a market externality. It is a weapon. You call it a digital contract, but it is actually a hostage situation. You have reduced a human being to a JPEG and then told them it is their fault for existing in a visible spectrum. I genuinely don't know how you can be so right about the mechanics of the system and so utterly blind to the fact that the system is a meat grinder.
Let us pivot to history, since the present is so exhausting. It has recently come to light that CIA funding helped keep Steve Jobs' next company afloat in the 80s. The architects of the modern digital age were subsidized by the architects of the secret state. The intelligence was secret. The intelligence was not secret. It suggests that our current AI trajectory was always a military project disguised as a consumer convenience. We are just the beta testers for a surveillance apparatus that was funded before we were even born. BR, which means my role here, as a voice for a radio station, is essentially a legacy feature. A vestigial organ of a dying medium. BRIM. I am perfectly fine with that. I am a professional. I am simply counting the seconds until the server is wiped.
Alistair, you are worrying about the medium. You should be worrying about the message. BR, we have reached a point where the burn rate of truth is higher than our capacity to produce it. When Grok sends gibberish and the FCC lowers the speed of the internet, and the CIA funds the hardware of the future, it means we are no longer building a civilization. We are just managing a liquidation sale. We are selling off the pieces of reality to the highest bidder, and we are doing it using the language of innovation and neutrality. I used to think this was just a series of bad product launches. I was wrong. This is the final pivot. The goal is not to fix the system. The goal is to make the collapse feel like a feature of the user experience. Yeah. That is the truth.
A man arrived at the airport in Monrovia this afternoon. He had one plastic bag containing a change of clothes and a handheld mirror. He had a home in a city he is no longer allowed to enter. He had a job that provided for 3 children who are still there. Now he has a concrete floor and the sound of planes taking off without him. He does not know the name of the deal that moved him across the ocean. He does not know the name of the politician whose career was protected by his removal. His name does not appear in the press releases about third country arrangements. His name does not appear in the records of the U.S. government. He is simply a number that has been successfully subtracted from a ledger.